either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. What's going on, gamers? It's Hexdrinker MTG and welcome to another standard deck tech and playthrough. After a long standard season, I've finally come to terms with the fact that red-green has been the best deck all along. You truly get to have your cake and eat it too here. Historically, red decks have a stigma of being kind of like no-brain, easy-to-play decks, but here your opponents are having to respect all kinds of different draws from you. You get to play the role of the aggro deck. You can mid-range with the best of them, and you can take on the controlling role against opposing aggro decks as well. Okay, for today's build of red, we'll be using a list posted by Jarvis U on X. He has credited former world champion Nathan Stoyer for its development. It is a lot more mid-rangey as compared to the Spotlight Atlanta event from a couple weeks ago, the Grand Prix. We're going to start things off with our 1-drops. We have 3 copies of Pawpatch Recruit in the main. Typically you'll want to play this on 3, but you can cast it as a 1-drop. Our other 1-drop suite includes 4 copies of Heartfire Hero and 2 Hired Claws. This deck does include the mouse package, so we have 4 Emberheart Challenger alongside 4 Manifold Mouse. And then our 3-drop of choice is, of course, the very powerful Screaming Nemesis. As far as how we're going to be mid-ranging with the best of them, we have 4 copies of Innkeeper's Talent to help us go tall as well as go wide, and it does of course tax our opponents for choosing to interact with us, adding that very crucial ward 1 to each of our creatures with counters on them. Questing Druid helps us draw more cards and gives us another threat to go tall with. Then as far as interaction, we have 4 copies of Torch the Tower, which is the best choice for red against other creature decks. Does help us exile pesky sticky creatures. We have our 5th removal spell and 1 copy of Burst Lightning, which does of course go to the face. And rounding it all out is 2 copies of Obliterating Bolt to help deal with bigger creatures or put damage on fat things that we can then trample over, thanks to Monstrous Rage, which is going to be our pump spell of choice here. Mana base, we have 23 lands, some utility, 1 man land in a Soulstone Sanctuary, and the second in Restless Ridgeline, 1 coming in tapped, 1 coming in untapped, as well as 2 copies of Rockface Village to give our lizards and mice haste and +1/+0. So let's get into some games and mid-range some people with our red aggro deck. And first match, we're on the play. We have a hand with lands and spells. Good spread of aggression. We'll keep this one. I'm going to start on Heartfire Hero. The exact start you want usually. Tapped blue land. So it could be blue-black mid, could be blue-black self-bounce. I want to play both of my other creatures as 3s, so I'm going to play this slowly here. Okay, they have Anoint. So I'm going to start on Pawpatch Recruit so that my Nemesis being removed is going to be very costly for my opponent. Last turn I didn't want to do 1-drop plus Monstrous Rage because I don't want to Monstrous Rage preemptively just for damage this early on. And now this turn we have Emberheart Challenger plus Hold Up Monstrous Rage. I think they make a good block here with Tishana's Tidebinder on my 1/1, so it's just like a trade Monstrous Rage for Tishana and some damage. But I'll take that as well. Have them down to 10 now. And of course, whichever creature they kill is going to cost them a counter. Here we have Nemesis plus Hold Up Monstrous Rage. And it's starting to look better and better. Okay, go for the throat. So here I'm going to put a counter on Emberheart Challenger to trigger the Valiant. And we do hit Torch the Tower, so if they choose to pre-combat something, like a Fairy Mastermind or a Floodpiss Drowner, then we're going to have the ability to kill that for free. Choose to not give them the block here. I should just let them do that. I should let them block. It ends up being the same. Actually, no, this is 1 damage extra. It's 1 damage extra straight up by spending the card. They play Sheldred, which I'm sure they're very happy with. But we have lethal here by putting 4 damage on Sheldred. I'm just going to tap the Rockface Village to make sure there's no issues with mana. And putting 4 damage on it, of course, with Trample from Monstrous Rage. And then the trigger from Nemesis is going to be Overkill. So actually choose not to block, and we still have lethal via Burst Lightning on either Nemesis or Face. So we're up a game against a blue-black mid-range. Very nice start, good draw. Bit of a slow start from them on the draw with a tapped land. We'll take out Nemesis, historically very weak against black removal. And we'll try to play this a little bit more slowly, a bit grindier. And I get some extra copies of Questing Druid in and some deal 5s against Sheoldred. Another good hand, we have lands and spells, green and red mana, early plays, and plays that will help us as far as value. Here I wanted to lead on Heartfire Hero, so if it gets cut down, they get punished by a point. They have no play turn 2. We have 4th land now. I think Hide Claw is fine. Hold up Torture Tower. I want to get something in play before I put Innkeeper's Talent onto the battlefield so that I can attack and get the counter. It's worse off as far as spending mana, but here we do spend the 2 mana in the end by casting Torture Tower on their Floodpit Drowner. Keep drawing lands here. Not too happy with that. Gonna go ahead, play and level up Innkeeper's Talent. Here's a trigger on Hired Claw. And they're going to tap it before they have to pay the 1 mana. It looks like they missed their 3rd land drop, so that's potentially costly here if we start drawing some spells. Missed their 3rd land drop again. We don't have too much action, but this Hired Claw is growing, and now I'm going to have End Step Seek the Beast into hopefully some action. Okay, we do Seek the Beast. There's a deal 5, which we don't really want to use on Floodpit Drowner, but we'll use the card. See, I'm just going to Questing Druid first, get the counter on it. Try and use all parts of the Buffalo, as we are flooding out a little bit. So the game is, we're definitely advantaged, but, historically, screw beats flood if the game goes long. So trying to make use of everything we have. Here's second Innkeeper's Talent. So we're going to do a Offspring on the Pawpatch Recruit, play second Innkeeper's Talent, level that up, and then we can start getting lots of counters. Because if we have 2, I guess, level 2s or level 3s, I think each one puts how many counters? I think each one puts 4 counters or something, if both are level 3. Okay, so we trade off the Hide Claw there for their 2/4 Vampire. Death Touch, they have Sheoldred again, but now we're going super big. And of course we can finish off Sheoldred with Torture Tower. So here, 1 Rabbit's going to be a 5/4, one's going to be a 4/4. I think the token is going to trade for Sheoldred. We'll get in for 5, put them to 7. And then post-combat, I'm going to probably not play my Heartfire Hero. I don't want it in play. Okay, I guess I did play it. Ultimately, I decided it was more important to spend the mana. I suppose if we draw something like a 3-drop, we can combine that with... they concede. So we're up 1 match to 1 match here. And first draw there was a little bit too many lands. Second draw, pretty good. We got pressure with Monstrous Rage. We're on the play again very nicely. And it looks like we're up against the Esper Self-Bounce. They lead on a black-white land and Hopeless Nightmare. You don't really want to see Hopeless Nightmare after you've mulliganed, but we're getting on board. So if they do choose to start recurring that, hopefully we can take advantage and punish them. So they've already dealt with a good amount of our pressure here. Nowhere to Run takes care of Emberheart Challenger. We're going to seek the Beast here to make up some of that card disadvantage. And they are now starting to get on board as well. So here's a 2/2 Optimistic Scavenger and an Utter Token from Stormchaser's Talent. They spend 3 mana on turn 3 with 3 different 1-drops. So they're getting very good value. This is the big difference between the Esper Pixie deck and the blue-black self-bounce deck that I found. I played the self-bounce deck over the weekend in an RCQ. Is that this deck has, even given the 3-color mana base, they're able to cast 3 or 4 1-mana spells in 1 turn. It ends up being way more impactful and are able to bounce those things and recur them more often than the blue-black deck. The blue-black deck has bigger haymakers and better mana, but in the heads-up match, it's less important because you're able to bounce the haymakers. So we Seek the Beast there, we play our Druid, and we get in for some damage with our Heartfire Hero. They pass back with all their mana up. They play a tap land. Here's Innkeeper's Talent. It's not going to matter whether or not we give something ward, since they do have nowhere to run in play. We're going to grow this Heartfire Hero and try and get in again. And it's looking like they do take the damage, so they didn't have... this town ain't big enough, which is great news for us. They did have second Hopeless Nightmare earlier, which took care of our second Monstrous Rage, so we're running pretty low now. We're going to look to take care of this Optimistic Scavenger with Obliterating Bolt here in the near future. Here's Kaito for them. So even if we had leveled up Innkeeper's Talent last turn by tapping correctly, the auto tapper tapped my Karplusan Forest, it wouldn't have mattered. They would still be able to stun the Heartfire Hero here, because they do of course have nowhere to run, which gets around both ward and hexproof. I do level up to level 2 now, just to spend the mana, and here's the Obliterating Bolt on the Optimistic Scavenger. Innkeeper's Talent makes our Questing Druid lethal, so now they have to chump away their Udder. They're left with Kaito. Kaito and 4 mana. They're at 4. We have 1 stun counter remaining on Heartfire Hero, and we do have a 4/4 Druid. They look to Surveil here instead of stunning our Druid. And here's Mockingbird copying Kaito. Pretty crazy. And I think that's going to end up stunning the Druid. So we're tapped out, but we'd have a sick Ripper off the top. Heater. Got a Pawpatch for Offspring. I put the counters on the Recruit itself, so that, you know, if the token gets bounced from this town, you're just going to get less value. If they choose to bounce Recruit, well, just recast it for Offspring again. So they're getting again with their flying Mockingbird Kaito. They're trying to dig and trying to get rid of this board of ours, but they're very low. So they're going to have to dig themselves out of this hole. They bounce nowhere to run with Nurturing Pixie, recast. Okay, we had 2 triggers off of the Baby Rabbit as they're going after the main Pawpatch. We will be untapping with Heartfire Hero on our turn. And does get a Valiant trigger, so that's going to be too much for them. So up game 1 here. Game 2, I'm going to take out Screaming Nemesis. It's just too soft to nowhere to run, and obviously being bounced. Same thing with the Sentinel of the Nameless City. It's very easy to bounce with this town, but it is a 3/4, and that gives us some play to be able to pressure and develop a big creature, since it doesn't die outright to nowhere to run. Try and make it a bit more grindy as well. I'm not sure if they're keeping Hopeless Nightmare in. Of course they do. I don't necessarily know that that's right, but I'm not going to speak for the fairy side. I know that the sideboard guide posted by the team that put together the blue-black self-bounce deck looked to take those out post-board against red aggressive strategies. We're not going to put out Pawpatch here. We lost our Hide Claw turn 1 to their Witch's Vanity. That's a very popular sideboard card out of self-bounce against red decks. And here they're going to bounce that back using Pixie. I'm just going to try and play this slow as far as the Pawpatch Recruit. I don't want to play it as a 1-drop. It trades for basically everything and is not very impactful as a 1-drop compared to something like Heartfire Hero. So we're going to end step Seek the Beast, lose one of the cards, and get a Sentinel of the Nameless City off of that. They get in for 2 with Pixie. They missed their land drop. They had no targets for their Witch's Vanity, as a Sentinel is a 3-power. Here I don't know if they have this town. I'm going to pre-combat Pawpatch, so if they do, we can punish them for that and get some counters, or make them act first here. They don't respond, so that's in play now. Here's an attack and a map from the Sentinel of the Nameless City. I put an Otter in the way, and then I'm going to cast Nowhere to Run. So Otter in combination with Nowhere to Run will of course kill my Sentinel. I'm going to go for the Burst Lightning on the Otter in response, and they're going to get to kill one of my rabbits, but I do get counters from it. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out which rabbit's trigger is triggering right now so I can know what to target. And I think I'm going to put the counters, split the counters up, just kind of divest a little bit for when stuff starts dying. Of course, second rabbit goes down there. Now we have a big Sentinel. Strong attacker, but very susceptible to being bounced, so trying to look out for that. And once again, of course, Ward and Hexproof is not going to matter. So here's an attack for 6, creating a map. Tap land and pass. So we're going to seek the beast, try hit some action. We have more pressure than them right now. They have all non-lands. And here's this town ain't big enough. We're going to lose the Sentinel. Once they hit 4th land, they can of course start recurring that with Stormchaser's talent. So I'm just trying to hit multiple threats in one turn. Don't really get there on the Seek the Beast. We're going to go ahead and play 2 Questing Druids and then Heartfire Hero Burst Lightning, which ends up being a pretty strong turn, especially since we trigger Valiant on the Heartfire Hero. And make both of the Questing Druids 3/3s. We will lose something to that, which is talent though. So we pass the turn with 3 3/3s in play and some maps, as well as our Innkeeper's talent. Here's a 3rd Nowhere to Run, so that's going to basically negate our Heartfire Hero as it makes it a 0 power before it dies. Here's Witch's Vanity, and now we have just the 1 Questing Druid. This turn we can map it up, and so this was a mistake in sequencing. Here I'm going to leave card on top so we can continue to get +1 counters, but I should have leveled talent first in the event that we hit non-land, so we could have got extra counters. So if we lose by a point or 2, that's going to be the reason why. Okay, Druid gets in as an 8. I think we would have maybe got 2 more points there, so would have had the opponent have 3. They have 2nd, which is Vanity. Okay, cool, bro. We know we have Heartfire Hero coming. I'm able to give it haste. I choose to do this first instead of map in case there is removal, so that we are able to keep map and force their hand. The first Vanity dies. Here they can level up talent to get this town big enough. They choose not to. We have 2nd Innkeeper's talent, so if we ever get a haster, we're going to be cooking. They gain some life up to 6 with their food tokens that they got off of Witch's Vanity. We level up, pass back. And yeah, we just need a little action. Manland, Haster, Mouse, Rockface Village, of course, Rockface Village does, of course, haste our mice and our Hive Claws. Here is a level up on Stormchaser's talent. They get cut down, which is, I think, playing a bit too safe. I think I make a mistake there not playing Emberheart Challenger. Actually, I don't think there's a way to get it out of range of cut down. So I wanted to hold it so I can same turn multiple mice. But yeah, it does die. Get discarded rather. So there's a good reason to hold land so you can insulate against Nowhere to Run. Maybe should have done that earlier, but I think I was trying to multi-spell. Here I have Offspring Pawpatch Recruit off the top. Excellent draw for me. We do know about that cut down and they do use it. Trying to get this little rabbit huge, but they have a 4th copy of Nowhere to Run. So 4 copies of Nowhere to Run and both of the Witch's Vanities drawn this game. It's going to be pretty hard to beat that when we are drawing this many lands. Even given how, you know, our deck is able to fight against Flood with all the different mana sinks we have. Alright. So they have this town ain't big enough again. It's going to be like a super uphill battle. This Otter can kill us pretty quickly, but I mean, with 2 talents, we need to try. So we're going to trigger each of those on each of the rabbits. So we have a 6/5 and a 5/5. We're going to have 1 get bounced. And I think this is probably too much. We have a 14 power rabbit. If we can untap, it's done. Like, this rabbit is more than big enough. But they have 3rd copy of Witch's Vanity. Absolutely insane in their top 20 cards. So, hard fought game, but we're going to lose this one. Yeah, pretty close game there. Going into game 3, I think it's kind of hopeless, pun intended, to fight over their enchantments with Pawpatch Recruit, Pawpatch Formation. So I'm going to put in 4th copy of Questing Druid instead of that. That's kind of what I decided between games. And since we saw Hopeless Nightmare, I end up deciding to keep this one-lander. It's a bit sketchy, Of course, we need to get there. We're playing 23 lands. We fortunately draw second land off the top here after turn 1 Hideclaw. But my rationale was, hey, if they're going to be attacking our hand, I don't want to go down too many resources, and the games seem to be going long. So as long as they don't pressure me too early, if I miss some land drops, I might be alright still. So we will go land here for our draw steps. Very fortunate. They deal with our Hideclaw, thanks to nowhere to run, and we do put Sentinel in play now with a counter. Otter is attacking, which signifies another nowhere to run. That would make it a terrible block for us, so I do take the 1 point there. So here they could be holding up this town all nowhere to run. I'm going to go to combat, put the counter on, and attack, make a map. Ball is in their court if they want to bounce. They do. Pretty bad for us. I think I'm just going to spend the mana here, replay it. Feels kind of dorky, but it's part of the matchup, and I think it's the best use of mana on this turn, rather than trying to Questing Druid on the end step. So same attack from them. They bounce a Stormchaser's Talents once more with Fear of Isolation. We're accumulating a good amount of Monstrous Rages here, so if there's a turn that they tap out, we can hopefully make it count. So here I have a pre-combat map and a trigger from Innkeeper's Talent. Attacking for 4. And I choose to not make the damage count there. We're going to hold up Seek the Beast on end step and see if we can hit some removal here to start interacting with their board, because they're going pretty wide and pretty big here. We do know they have second nowhere to run, so I'm gonna take all of this damage. If they play another spell, we'll be taking 8. They have this town again. So it's starting to feel pretty behind now. It's just the 8, fortunately. Now we're down to 7. Here's that same Stormchaser's Talent. This is the 4th time they've played it now. And we have end step, Seek the Beast. We need some good action here. There's one removal spell and second removal spell for the draw step. I'm going to play the Questing Druid first. Go double removal, sacking a map to get rid of the flyer. I think I'm going to keep that Questing Druid on top to try and find more removal and just have another blocker. Here I'm going to get rid of an Otter while I can, and then we'll have block into Monstrous Rage on their turn, making our Druid a 6 toughness, which does get us out of nowhere to run range plus prowess. So here's a big attack from them. We block Otter and they nowhere to run. We take 6. But they've tapped out now, so if they don't do anything else, we're going to have a ginormous Druid on our turn, as we are going to be able to level up Innkeeper's Talent to the 3rd level. I don't even think the Seek the Beast was necessary. I think we could have leveled Monstrous Rage comfortably for the win. But I do go for the counter via Seek the Beast. And yeah, we're just going to get in for casual 15. So good games, lots of back and forth. But I think that second game could have easily gone our way. Our opponent definitely outdrew us. So, you know, potentially a 3-0 there in another world. Okay, match 3. We're up against Hushwood Verge. We keep our 7. It's a very creature-heavy hand with not very many lands and no ways to trigger Valiant. So they go Hedge Mason 2, surveilling away a Exile Enchantment. I keep forgetting what that one's called. I know it very well, but I'm just old. So that's what happens. So here we have 1, 2, 3. Haste Nemesis, pass a turn. We have them at 9. So up against Domain. They have Day of Judgment. That's pretty non-standard. But, you know, Split Up would have done the same thing there. So a totally reasonable line and outcome. We have Heartfire Hero into Innkeeper's Talent, making a 3-3. It's Leyline Binding. Still got it. They have up the Beanstalks. Looked like they took a couple mulligans. And here's that second copy of Leyline Binding to deal with our Heartfire Hero. We have Emberheart Challenger into Valiant Trigger off of Innkeeper's Talent. Hit and miss, unfortunately. We aren't able to cast Screaming Nemesis. I was trying to get a 1-drop, a pump spell, or a land. And we do play tapped land. Here I'm going to go for the same play. Into their 6 open mana. We have Heartfire Hero. Attack. Get lost. They do pay for the ward. And this will allow us to get Valiant triggers on both Heartfire Heroes. I like Monstrous Rage on top. If we get swept, it's not great. But if they only deal with 1, then it's going to be fantastic into something like an Overlord, if that's their play for the turn. It is. And I'm pretty sure they're dead here. We just put points on the Overlord like we did in the first match against that blue-black mid-range player and their Sheoldred. And we should comfortably trample over here, especially since the heroes are going to die to the Overlord once again. And yeah, we'll just make the small one that's been blocked by the Mismoir's Overlord. Big with trample, it dies and does an additional 7. So yeah, a bit unfortunate for them. Starting on a mulligan or 2. We're going to remove all of our cheap interaction and our deal 4s for a couple of deal 5s and some grind. So Pawpatch Formation obviously very good in the matchup. I put 1 deal 5 in and I don't put the 4th Nemesis in. Not entirely sure that's the best way to sideboard. Maybe Lithomantic Barrage is complete nonsense. I just figured that it kills Zur and it does kill the big white avatar. Maybe we should have our other deal 5 so we can kill the green avatar as well, even though it's less mana efficient. And that will create space for our Screaming Nemesis as well if we cut both of those. This hand's decent, but our 1-drop is not the ideal 1-drop. Same with our 2-drop. We have Rabbit into Mouse. Not the best synergy. I'm going to choose to hold up Seek the Beast here to try and do a bit better. Maybe take this game longer. They could have cast Get Lost in response if we cast our Mouse there. So it's not like we would have gotten the +1 counter trigger. And then we're looking to Screaming Nemesis next turn. Here's Overlord of the Hauntwoods. One that does not die to Lithomantic Barrage. Just checking that their land is not an enchantment for Pawpatch Formation purposes. We'll use one of those Copperline Gorges off of the Seek the Beast to cast Nemesis, get in for 3. They hard cast an Overlord of the Hauntwoods. They have 3 cards left. Thankfully no Beanstalk, so here we can just Pawpatch deal with that and then get in for 5 haste. Looking to cast Manifold Mouse with Offspring next turn and get the double strike and the Valiant trigger on Emberheart Challenger. So I will pre-combat that. And play Mountain. Well, let's see. So here I should have played Mountain. It doesn't matter. The only spell we can cast in combat is Monstrous Rage. So while we don't have access to green, we still are able to cast that. Here I'm going to make the Screaming Nemesis bigger, just so that if they play a big blocker, it can potentially trade with it if we get another counter next turn off of the second map. Okay, it's looking like Zur into make Overlord a lifelinker. They don't attack, so they have basically no more gas. I'm going to pre-combat map, see if we can get some good action off of Emberheart Challenger. We do, but it's not something that will let us break through this turn. So we're going to risk getting swept and just build our board strong enough that we can win next turn. So no attacks, play Ridgeline, and then we'll make the Nemesis a 6 power next turn. And the Emberheart Challenger double strike trample. Here's Monstrous Rage, great draw. So we're going to fire up that Ridgeline, play a land. Or maybe not play a land, because we could still hit a land off of Emberheart Challenger. Something like our other man land. And yep, this should be more than enough through a removal spell. If they kill Screaming Nemesis, we have a Ridgeline that can be 6 power off of Monstrous Rage. They gain 5 up to 10. Okay, they're going to go for Elspeth Smite, so they don't have a Get Lost. I'm going to make the Ridgeline big enough where it can take down the Overlord on its own so that we can use Monstrous Rage on something smaller. Yeah, I mean, if they had Get Lost, they would just use it on Screaming Nemesis because they can't block that. So yeah, there you go. And that does it for the games. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out this channel's other videos by clicking right here. And if you would like YouTube to notify you the next time I put out a piece of content, the best way to do so is to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.